as you can hear, is just about to get underway. But of course, we being on the sidelines of this event, being able to bring you certain perspectives on what exactly is happening. We are set up at the exhibition area, and of course, being able to bring you up to speed on what exactly is making headlines in terms of business here in the country. Well, back to the conversation that we had, and joining me now is the CEO of the Kenya National Export Promotion Council. He is Mr. Peter Biwott. Karibu sana, sir.
Asante sana.
Yes, now, first off, of course, is to ask, as a stakeholder in this event here today, what exactly was the council doing here? What was your role today?
Thank you very much. The Export Promotion Council is actually an agency of government, and our responsibility is to promote exports. Our responsibility is to encourage Kenyans to, export, because export business is one of the ways the government has identified, for poverty reduction and for growing our economy. So, as we are part of the State Department for Trade, of the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Cooperatives. And as you know, the Trade Week has various components. The first component today was the launch of the trade policy and the discussions around, domestic as well as international trade. But now for us, our responsibility was to see that all these flows, and it leads up to an event that is going to be done on Wednesday, which is the Exporters Forum. Because, we are looking at trade from domestic up to, international. And what we are doing as government is that we've been able to deliver, as Export Promotion Council, taking advantage of government work around infrastructure, around policy reforms, around now the development of the trade policy. We come in and then we encourage Kenyans, we encourage exporters. We look at the bottlenecks affecting exporters, the challenges they face at the county level up to the national level. We make recommendations to government, and a lot of these recommendations are actually, addressed with a view to enhance Kenya exports. Another of our function is that as EPC, we actually set targets. One of our mandates is to set targets for the country and then encourage exporters to achieve it. And through this process, you are aware that, of course, we have come up with a national trade policy. Currently, we are working on the medium-term plan for the trade sector. And the target for exports is we want to increase our export share of GDP by 15% by the year 2030. And in total, the contribution of exports, as well as the other sectors of trade, has a likelihood of enhancing our growth of the economy by 2%. So there are only two ways which a country can grow their economy. One of the ways is attracting investments, whether they are local or foreign investments. Another way is encouraging exports. And we know that Kenyan products in the recent past have really accessed the regional markets like our manufacturing sector or the value addition sectors of the economy. There is no way Kenya will industrialize if we do not have a critical focus on exports. And part of this trade week, or part of the forums around the trade week, is to bring this sensitization to Kenyans, so that policymakers, private sector leaders, and industry champions can be able to realize that we all need to work as a team, as Kenya, because this is one of the ways which our economy will grow, and it has been proven that when exports increase, it actually shows the health of the economy. If you want to know the health of the economy of any country, especially countries like ours, where we have an hinterland and we have a port, is to look at the way we are doing in our exports. And if we do well in exports, then it means our business environment is good. It means our infrastructure is good. It means all the systems that support production in the country are good. So part of this trade week is to be able to seek stakeholder collaborations within the public sector and also look at the private sector as well as the development partners. And then we say, for the trade sector to move forward, what are we supposed to do? As you might have heard, the Export Promotion Council currently, we are working on a national export strategy, which is going to take us to the next level in terms of exporting business. And as I told you, Kenya is a powerhouse in terms of trade. We are being looked at the region. We are being
just to sort of cut you short right there, because despite Kenya being a large player in exports and trade in the region, if you make a simple comparison, intra-Africa trade within the region still remains a very small percentage of the total trade with the entire world. We have better prospects of trading with our neighbors because they are much closer than the people who are far away. What then do we need to start to do to realize these low-hanging fruits that we see, because we need to grow intra-regional trade?
Thank you very much. What we've been doing is that we've been able as EPC to reach out to key government organizations. Recently, we actually signed an MOU with the Tea Directorate of the Agriculture and Food Authority. And one of the requests which were made by exporters of tea, they told us, open for us Nigeria market. Can you open for us, Sudan market? Can you open for us more the Ethiopian market? So you are right to say that when you talk about trade, it's about the distance. The nearer, the better. And I want to tell you that, I want to tell the nation that in our national trade policy, we have actually been able to prioritize intra-Africa trade. In as much as we are also encouraging exports to the EU, we are encouraging trade with the Asian continent. We are also encouraging trade with America, the US, or the Northern America through the African Growth and Opportunity Act. We have put a lot of emphasis under the national trade policy on intra-Africa trade. If you read the congressional report of the US government of 2015, of March 2015, when African continent moved to the US to lobby for the extension of AGOA, which was granted, the US congressional report also indicated that apart from focusing a lot on AGOA, the African continent have a missing link, and the missing link was a low intra-Africa trade. So, and there is one thing which is unique about the trade sector, and this is also going to be addressed by the national trade policy and the national export strategy. The trade sector, we do not work on our own. You realize that if it comes to production, the Ministry of Agriculture is a producer. Other sectors are producers like mining. So our role is largely coordinational. And one of the recommendations in the national trade policy, as well also the national export strategy, is proper coordination within the sector. And what we are doing through the Trade Week is to be able to reach all stakeholders. We bring all our documents which are going to help us to enhance our trade sector. We discuss with them. At the end of this 3-day event, we come up with a way forward. And that way forward is going to be reviewed on an annual basis. And then we say for trade sector to grow, this is the role of EPC. This is the role of the State Department for Trade. This is the role of policymakers in the ministries. These are the roles of government parastatals. These are the roles of private sector association. And that is why, if you go through the exhibition booths here today, you will see the exhibition by government agencies. You will also see the exhibition by private sector organizations, which include Kenya Association of Manufacturers. You will see Kenya Private Sector Alliance, Kenya National Chamber of Commerce and Industry. You will see Kenya Revenue Authority here. You will see Kenya Bureau of Standards, because they are very critical in terms of ensuring standards. You will see Kenya National Trade Network, KenTrade, which is responsible for the Kenya Single Window System. You will see EPC, of course. We promote, exports and all other government agencies. And we want to tell Kenyans that there is an opportunity. We want to create wealth. If you look at economies like Korea, you look at countries like Japan, they focused a lot on industrialization. They focused on trade, and that is why their economies were able to be revolutionized. And this is an opportunity for our young people. We know many young Kenyans have access to mobile phones. We need to take advantage of the technology. We bring more Kenyans to self-employment. We move from our minds from the culture of employment to culture of self-employment. We look also at our women, because, at the end of the day, under our Vision 2030, we are looking at, inclusive growth and shared growth. So we are reaching out to our Kenyan women, and that is why you will realize that a larger part of participants in the Exporters Forum on Wednesday will be women entrepreneurs.
And just to sorry to cut you short right there, but part of what was happening here today, of course, apart from mainstreaming women into the value chain, is also the domestication of literally what the World Trade Organization is trying to do to bring, create efficiencies within trade right across the world. Maybe you can sort of talk to us about that and what it means for local producers and SMEs here in this country.
Thank you very much. You see, Kenya is part of the Trade Facilitation Agreement of the World Trade Organization. Some of the deliverables which Kenya has committed, and that's why you saw there's a strategy which has been launched on Trade Facilitation Agreement. There's a committee in place which is being chaired by the State Department of Trade, and we have membership from public and private sector. Part of the deliverables under the Trade Facilitation Agreement is the improvement of ports, improvement of our infrastructure, taking advantage of technology. The Can Trade Initiative, the single window system, is part of the deliverable under the World Trade Organization Free Trade Agreement. And we want to encourage Kenyans to seek for more information. We have created a trade portal. As EPC, we have a Center for Business Information. Can you look for information? Can we work together so that you can be able to take advantage of online platforms where we are now moving towards exporting of services? You've heard the President and the Deputy President talk and say they would like to establish some ICT hubs within the counties so that our young people can be able to work online. That is export of service. And this is what we want to encourage. We want to encourage young Kenyans to take advantage of opportunities existing in the value chains, because you realize that the government now has come up with the standard gauge railway. So we need to start looking at priority products, which we have exhibited as EPC. The other organizations like KFIS have also exhibited in agribusiness, in the ICT sector, so that we can be able to take advantage of some of the commitments which have been signed by government. And I can tell you, even within the African continent, in the Ethiopian market, we have what we call special status agreement, which was signed between the government of Ethiopia and Kenya. Part of the objectives of this forum today is to sensitize Kenyans about that trade agreement. Between Kenya and Nigeria, there's a trade agreement, and our leading products in these trade agreements are products from the agriculture sector. You find there is tea there, there is legumes, you'll find that there is vegetables there. And what is happening, if you look at our companies like Birko and others, they are now contracting farmers. I was able to visit a few farmers in the North Rift, and I visited some farmers or some exporters in Ethiopia, in Mombasa. I went to Malindi. And what is happening is, in Malindi, I was able to interact with a company called Equator Limited, which is a company exporting chili. And we realized that they have done a lot of contracts with farmers. Bidco has done the same. Maize Foods in Eldoret has done the same. But one of our biggest challenge, which as EPC or as the trade sector, we would like to address, is the issue of raw materials and value chains. We realized that some of these manufacturing hubs, like what Equator Limited in Malindi or Maize Foods in Eldoret, still depend on supply of raw materials from other countries. Like, for example, Maize Foods in Eldoret, they import pepper to produce chili from Uganda. Of course, this is positive for us because it is the region, but at the end of the day, this forum is supposed to encourage Kenyans that we need to start production here in our country.
Yes. My final question for you is to talk to us about the role of women in all the things we are saying, because they are an essential part of the value chain. We know that government has set about driving the affirmative action agenda, especially because they have been doubly disadvantaged, first as women and secondly as producers in a value chain which really doesn't support them. What exactly is being done, very briefly?
Briefly, what we are doing in terms of encouraging Kenyans is that institutions like our institution, Export Promotion Council, Kenya Association of Manufacturers, we are partnering and coming up with programs. Institutions like, Kenya Private Sector Alliance. What I'm trying to say is that government and private sector are actually partnering together to start programs of, for example, women in exporting business or women in manufacturing business. Or for example, in EPC, we are working a lot with women in art craft sector. As you can see from the exhibitions here, there is Ubunifu. Ubunifu is a group of women who have come together to produce, kiondos, to produce handbags, very high quality handbags. And as EPC, what we have done is that we have taken them through all the processes that are needed to prepare them for export business. And a lot of them now are exporting to the US market.
And mass production as well.
Mass production as well. They're exporting to the African market like Uganda. They're also selling locally, and that's why we're encouraging Buy Kenya, Build Kenya. Because we want our women to produce, sell to the nearest shop, like supermarkets. And the State Department of Trade has done a lot in ensuring that supermarkets who buy products from our women pay on time. And that is why, moving forward, there are proposals on how to deal with this challenge of late payments, which has been affecting women in most cases, who supply to supermarkets, they supply to shops. And what is going to happen is we have come up with a self-regulation. There's a code of conduct which has been developed by the State Department of Trade in collaboration with all agencies related. And The reason why we are doing all this is because if you want to grow our economy, if we want to make the foundation of growth of our country strong, we have to invest in our women, we have to invest in our youth, and soon, to tell you, as EPC, we are going to reach out to the National Council for People with Disabilities, because we want to see, as Export Promotion Council, how can we also reach out to the people, our other less privileged Kenyans, people with disabilities. How can we support them so that they participate in export business? What are we going to do? We have a lot of programs which we have developed, and there's one program on enterprise product development, where we take our exporters through certain training, certain certification processes with Kenya Bureau of Standards, and then in the end, they are given an opportunity to travel. Like we are going to have, some of our exporters go to Ethiopia this year, and our program in the textile sector, in the agro-processing and light manufacturing sector. Some of them will fly to New York, especially the ones in the textile sector like Ubunifu, the group of women. So these are some of the areas which we want to do so that we can be able to enhance our growth of our economy, achieve inclusive economic development, and make Kenyans proud of their country.
Okay, indeed. Thank you very much. It has been a very interesting conversation hearing from you what exactly the Export Promotion Council has been doing to drive the trade conversation in Kenya. Thank you very much for your time. It has been very nice talking to you this afternoon, Asante. Yes. That, of course, was a conversation with Mr. Peter Biwott. He is the CEO at the Export Promotion Council, the man charged with driving the conversation around exports and the promotion of that here in Kenya. And, delving into a lot of the initiatives that they're being able to drive here in Kenya today towards growing efficiencies in the export sector. We're almost at the end of our show, but before we go, just to bring you up to speed on what else is happening in the world of business. Of course, the conversation here has also been about the world of power and how that factors into business. Power, of course, has always been something that is a sticking point in this country, both in terms of quality and efficiency of delivery. And that continues to be something that we'll cover for you here today in one of the following stories, so do take a look.
Framework that actually brings all of us who participate in trade facilitation around the port, who handle your goods around the port. We wanted to have that framework that we collaborate and actually be able to monitor.
Jared, nisome intro. Well, we are now at the end of our show here today, coming to you live from the Kenyatta International Convention Center. Of course, the conversation here has been around trade, and we were asking you online, do you think Kenya has been able, literally, to be able to, drive the export agenda, among other things, here today? Unfortunately, we are not able to bring you that feedback due to some technical challenges, but do continue to talk to us online. Of course, that conversation continues and will continue to engage with you as the day does wear on. Coming up next in a few minutes is World View with news making headlines from across the region here in Kenya and right across the world. Of course, we'll be back tomorrow at the same time here again at 2 o'clock for more on KTN Business Today. But from us here at the KICC, it is Kwaheri, and do continue to enjoy the rest of your viewing. Do have yourselves a good afternoon. My name is Peter Kaba.
Business Today, in association with Telkom.
Celebrating our heritage, we are stepping into a bold new future. Join us. Telkom, moving with you.